When most people think about green cars, the very first one that comes to mind is the Toyota Prius. And there's good reason too. It's always been an excellent value, very fuel efficient, and a pretty nice car to boot. Well, now the Toyota Prius is in its third generation, and it really hasn't strayed far from that very successful formula. The hybrid powertrain in the Prius, it works very seamlessly. In fact, it goes between electric powertrain, gas powertrain, charging, combinations of both, without the driver really even noticing anything is going on. Overall, we got 44 miles per gallon in it. This is the same that we got on the previous generation's Prius, but this time around it has a 1.8 liter engine instead of the 1.5. And what that means is sometimes it's a little bit more relaxed when it's cruising, and while it's the same fuel economy number, it actually is a little bit different. We found that fuel economy on the highway was a little bit better than it was before, but in the city, not quite as good. And while the engine this time is a little bit bigger, it doesn't translate to any quicker acceleration. Part of that reason is this time around the car's a little heavier. If you're driving a Prius, often you're pretty interested in what fuel economy you're getting. Finding that on the multifunction display can be a little bit tricky. You have to cycle through the different displays. And this time, instead of color, it's a green screen and not a very good resolution either. In fact, the graphics look like a video game from the 80s. When you're using the steering wheel controls, there's a display up here that tells you what you're pressing. We didn't really find it that useful. We found it distracting. The Prius rides pretty well. Sometimes there's some quick pitches, but it's steady on the highway. Overall, it's fairly quiet too. But when you push the engine, sometimes you hear that engine working pretty hard. Handling, well, it's okay. It's pretty secure, especially in emergency situations. The stability control works well. But as a feel, it's not that impressive. The steering, well, it's pretty vague. Another area where there's a little bit of disappointment is visibility. Out the front, it's really not too bad. There's a long dashboard, takes a little bit getting used to, but it's okay. The problem comes from the back. In the back, the pillars, well, they're pretty big, they block a lot. Plus, that rear window, there's two of them, and it's bisected by a bar that often blocks the car behind you. In addition to that, the wiper only covers the top portion. If you're familiar with the last generation of the Prius, the biggest change you're going to notice inside is this large center console. And with it, there's some advantages and some disadvantages. On the plus side, there's a lot of controls here that are real close to the driver and real easy to reach. The problem, though, is it takes up some real estate here, and it makes you feel a little more confined. Our car came equipped with optional seat heaters, and the button for those seat heaters is probably in the worst location we've ever witnessed. It's actually down here on the floor on the other side of the center console, where it's really hard to see and really hard to reach. While it's pretty well put together, there's nearly nothing plush here. There's lots of hard plastics wherever you look. There's nothing luxurious. There's a few features that help you get a more comfortable driving position. First of all, there's a seat height adjustment and telescope and tilt adjustment for the steering wheel. It's nice, however, it doesn't come out too far. So a few of us actually wanted it to come closer. Well, the front seat's pretty comfortable. The rear seat, well, it's really impressive for a smaller car. Adults will find plenty of headroom, plenty of legroom here. It's a little narrow for 3 adults across, but this is impressive. In fact, the Prius, it's a perfectly viable family car. Adding to that practicality is the hatchback design. There's a decent amount of cargo room back here, and even though there's batteries back here that you're carrying around, the rear seats, they fold down flat and make for a pretty large area to carry around your stuff. So while the Prius isn't the most fun car to drive, as efficient transportation, it's really hard to beat. And while it's not a big leap over the last generation of the car, it really didn't need to be. It still delivers all of the things that has made the Prius so successful.